If you're a health of a life coach who feels like they're burning themselves out trying to keep up with what everyone is saying their coaching business should look like, then this is the episode of the Wholehearted Business Show for you. Together, we are going to de-influence your coaching business. Let's jump in. Hi there, welcome to the Wholehearted Business Show. I'm Laura. I help heart-centered and highly sensitive health and life coaches get more clients, grow their businesses and live the best lives while they do it. And today on the Wholehearted Business Show, we are going to de-influence your coaching business. Now, what I mean by this is if you are someone who feels like you are scrolling on Instagram and seeing a different piece of advice from lots of different coaches who are suggesting to you that this is the one and only way of running your coaching business, or you should be doing this. If you're not doing this, then you're doing a terrible job. If your coaching business doesn't look like this, then you've failed. All of that kind of stuff. Then today I'm going to help you de-influence yourself. Now, if you haven't seen the de-influence trend in places like Instagram, it is basically where we kind of remind ourselves what is real and what is projected on social media. So a lot of influencers on social media will obviously portray products, a lifestyle that is actually really out of touch with reality. And what I wanted to do today is just kind of do that same thing for the coaching industry and for health and life coaches in particular. So together we are going to de-influence your coaching business. The first thing that we are going to de-influence is that your coaching business must be making 6 or 7 figures to be successful. Now, I've spoken about this before on the show. I will link to the episode of the show where I've talked about this before. But no, your coaching business does not need to make 6 or 7 figures to be successful unless that is very much your version of success and that's something that you deeply desire. If that's what you want, then that is perfectly fine. You are allowed to want that. There's nothing wrong with wanting more money in your life, to have a business that is bigger, that has a bigger turnover. That is absolutely fine, but that is not the only measure of a successful coaching business. And often what we see portrayed in the online space is that everyone, and I know that's a massive overgeneralization, but this is what we're talking about with de-influencing. Often what we see in the online space, and whether that's traditional social media like Instagram, Facebook, or places like YouTube as well, is that all of these coaches, everyone is kind of on 6 or 7 figures. And the truth is there are a whole bunch of people who are running really successful coaching businesses, myself included, who are not at 6 or 7 figures. And we still have sustainable, joy-filled, wonderful coaching businesses that are still worth striving for. And I think it's really great to remember that that reality is not the case for most people. And also it's not realistic for most people. Now, this is probably not what everyone wants to hear, but the truth is not everyone is going to make it to 6 or 7 figures. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but not everyone is going to make it to that level. And again, it's like the very, very small percentage of people who start coaching businesses are going to get to that. Most of us are going to be way under that. And I don't know what the statistics are, but this percentage of coaches who do make it to that level is going to be very, very small. But that still doesn't mean that not making it to that level is not a successful coaching business. It really depends on what your version of success is and you allowing yourself to do that and not feel bad about it being something else. I really struggled for years feeling like I should be a 6-figure coach. I should be striving for more. And I do still want to make more money in my coaching business. I'm still working on increasing my income. That feels really, really good to me. I've kind of let go of a lot of the stuff around money. I've talked about this recently on the show as well. I'm really happy with where I am. My coaching business makes a great amount of income for, working 20 to 25 hours a week as a single mother. Like, it is amazing. And I've said this before, I think my business is absolutely incredible and I love it so much. I love it where it is. I would love it to make a little bit more money, definitely. But honestly, if this was as good as it got, I would be really, really happy with that. So reminder, you do not have to make 6 or 7 figures to have a successful coaching business. And in fact, most people don't get to that point, and that's okay. The second thing that we're going to de-influence is that you do not need a low ticket offer funnel. Now, this is something I'm seeing spoken about more and more often all over internet land by coaches, is that you need to have a low ticket offer and you need to have a low ticket funnel. Now, there are occasions where that makes sense. I am working on this for myself at the moment. This is something in the background that I want to work on, but you do not necessarily need that. Yes, there's all sorts of situations where that might make sense. But where it's kind of touted as like, you must have this or your business is going to fail, that is not the truth. Again, there's lots of successful coaches who do not have any low ticket offers or any kind of funnels. And that's okay if that doesn't jive for you. So if the idea of having a low ticket funnel just is like, oh, don't really want to have that. I don't want to build a funnel. I don't want to test a funnel. It feels all really complicated. That's okay. You don't have to worry about that unless that's something that really does make sense for your goals. And again, part of this de-influencing your coaching business, I think, is about really understanding what is for you and what isn't. And that is not just from like, this is a strategy that will help me get the result that I want. And the result that I want is based on like a deep desire that is authentic to me. Or I feel like I need to do this because this is what so-and-so is saying that we should do. And I think that's the big difference. The next thing that I want to de-influence for you is that you need social media to run a successful coaching business. Now, again, if you have been hanging out with me for any amount of time, you will know that I do very, very little on social media. Most of my business is ran on platforms that are not traditional social media. I know some people might argue that YouTube is social media or that Pinterest is social media, and that's okay. For me, they do not sit in the same box as Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc. Mostly because these platforms are based on long form content, not short form content, although the shorter form content has kind of gotten itself in there a little bit more with these platforms. You do absolutely not need to use social media if you do not want to. You don't have to use any particular platform for marketing if you don't want to, and you can still have a really successful coaching business. Again, this comes back to that discernment and about you really figuring out like what makes sense for you and what feels good to you. So when you see someone kind of suggesting that you absolutely have to be on Instagram, again, you don't. If it doesn't feel good to you, you do not have to be on any particular platform, social media or otherwise. But again, there can be situations where it makes sense. Example, in my business right now, I am thinking about dipping my toe back into Instagram a bit more. I got like 500 followers out of nowhere on Instagram without me posting anything. I don't know why that was, but I am probably going to dip my toe back into Instagram a little bit more. And that's not coming from a place of like, I feel like I need to do that now. It's coming from a place of, I'm quite curious to what it would be like to show up on that platform as the version of me now who has done a lot of inner work on comparison, on feeling vulnerable when I share content, all of those things. I'm quite fascinated to see how that goes. But again, there's no rule that says you have to be on social media to grow a successful coaching business, so you can de-influence yourself from that. The fourth thing that we're going to de-influence ourselves from is that you need ads to have a successful coaching business. Now, I myself have been saying this recently to quite a few people. Ads are helpful, okay? I'm not going to lie, like dabbling in ads, and I mean, I just dabble. I haven't done loads with ads. And I do feel that they are an important part of my business now, but you can absolutely grow a successful coaching business and never touch a paid ad at all. It might be trickier, again, depending on what you're aiming for. But again, what we often see talked about is that often again by people who are wanting to sell stuff, and that's fine. You know, people are allowed to say what they think is important from their perspective and shout about it and try and sell you stuff about it, because for them, that is what's important for them. And I think a big part of this process of de-influencing yourself from all of this stuff online in your coaching business is about really kind of coming back to yourself and being like, actually, is this relevant for me? And really being so discerning and so questioning of the messages that you see online. And that includes for me as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, I'm talking about the stuff that I feel really passionate about. What I do try and bring into my work, to be fair, is this approach of it's not one size fits all, and it's very, very rare that there's anything that I think applies to every single coaching business. Most things are optional, depending again on what your specific version of success looks like. So you do not have to have paid ads if you do not want to have them. That is absolutely fine. You can still grow a successful coaching business. Again, there might be occasions, probably quite a lot of occasions, where it would make sense to have them. But if you're ever feeling under pressure, or like all of the messaging that you're seeing is that you should have ads, then you're okay to question that and not do that if you don't want to. Another thing is that you do not need a group program or a course or anything like that to have a successful coaching business. Another thing that we often see talked about online is that you must have a group program, you must have a source of passive income, you must have a course, you must have all of these things in order to make your business successful. Again, that is not true. That is not the case for everybody. It might be that that's really aligned with your version of success and that feels really good to you. I always love the creative process of creating new things. It's always been something that I've enjoyed doing. So I've got like a whole bunch of courses and content. And obviously I've got a fantastic group program called Wholehearted Business, which you should absolutely check out because it is amazing. But you do not have to have those things in order to have a successful coaching business. Again, what a lot of this kind of influencing from the online space and other online coaches tends to do to us is it makes us think that there's there's one kind of version of this that's working. And that, again, is not the case. There's a whole bunch of coaches out there who have really successful businesses that do not have any courses or programs. They just do one-to-one coaching. So it's a great reminder that again, what we see presented to us as this is the way to do it is not always the case, because there's a lot of variety behind the scenes. Again, with the income, there's a whole heap lot more coaches who are not at 6 or 7 figures and who are still having a fantastic time in their coaching businesses. So it's a great reminder that this is another example. You don't have to have a group program, you don't have to have a course. You don't even have to have a one-to-one coaching program if you have those other things. There's no version of your coaching business that it has to look like anything in particular. You can have it look a different way. And then finally, we are going to de-influence you from the idea that your coaching business has to be the only thing that you do. So again, another kind of commonly, portrayed version of success around coaching businesses is that it's your full-time gig. And in all honesty, it doesn't have to be successful. So there's lots and lots of examples of people who have really great coaching businesses, but they also do other work alongside those things as well. So whether or not it is other kind of more freelance work, other versions of coaching that is like maybe in like a part-time employed role, maybe they are working still part-time in another job, maybe they're applying skills in a different way. There's all sorts of versions of how this might stack up to make your coaching business successful. When I really very, very early days initially set up my health coaching business, my income was coming from lots of different places, not just coaching. Slowly coaching replaced pretty much everything. But at the time I was getting paid to deliver workshops in person. I was doing more youth worky type stuff because my background is in community and youth work. So I was doing a lot of community-based projects and I loved doing that. And if that had worked for me, at the time it didn't, because I had my very small son and I didn't want to do a lot of work outside the house. But at the time, if that had worked for me, then I could have built my business along those lines and still had a big chunk of my time doing like work in the community. If I'd wanted to, I could have built my business on that basis of doing a lot of work in the community and also doing one-to-one coaching. So don't get too hung up. As long as you're happy, this is the bottom line, isn't it really? As long as you're happy with how your business is looking and it's all making sense for you, don't feel any shame about your coaching business looking different and income coming from different sources. Like that is just as a legitimate version of success as anyone else's. So if that means for you that, you do have a part-time job and you coach on the side, if it means that you do other work that is paid but that isn't quite coaching, but it's a different form of income into your business, that's okay too. You're okay to have this kind of mismatch of stuff. And there's a great book that I read a few years ago called The Multi-Hyphen Method from Emma Gannon. And this was really along that premises, is that, people are kind of creating these really like hodgepodge careers, these really hodgepodge businesses. But actually that can be amazing. That can be like a really, really great thing. And to be fair, I've carried quite a bit of that through into this business. I still do some design work in terms of building websites and things like that. So there's always like space for a little bit of variety in what it is that you're doing. So don't feel like your coaching business has to be pure coaching 100% of the time to be successful. In fact, a lot of coaching businesses are a bit of a mixture of different types of work, different types of income, different forms of employment. That's all okay too. So there we have it, a few things to de-influence your coaching business. If you've been feeling like you have to do it a specific way, you have to have certain things in place, you have to be X, Y, and Z, you do not. Your coaching business can look as unique as you are, and in fact it should do. And that is really my ethos, is to help you create a business that is really aligned with who you are and what it is that you want and the way that you need to show up in the world. I call it a cosy coaching business. I've talked about wholehearted business, because what I don't want any of us to do is like half-arse anything, and I think wholehearted has lots of different meanings for me in the context of my business. But a big part of it for me was like, I don't want to half-arse it. I don't want to half-arse any part of my life or business, actually. I want to show up wholeheartedly, and that's what I try and do. So as long as you're doing that, I think we're all winning. But again, it's a good reminder that a successful coaching business does not have to look a specific way. And also that, your journey through this can look very, very different. And really, you can run your coaching business just for the joy of it. Like I've got a few clients at the moment who are not particularly like focused on making a specific amount of income. Their focus for their business is simply, I love this work and I want to make it fun and I want to do it. And honestly, that is one of the most powerful energetic spaces. I've talked a lot about energy recently. That's one of the most powerful energetic spaces to be in, because you're coming from this place of like pure joy and service to other people. And it makes me think of a talk that I saw by Joe Wicks. So anyone who's not familiar with Joe Wicks, if you're not in the UK, I think everyone in the UK will know Joe. But Joe is he kind of started as a personal trainer, and he's a really big online personality in the UK. talks a lot about healthy eating, about exercise, health and well-being type of stuff. And I saw him talk at Atomicon, which is a big online business event that's held not too far away from me. And he really spoke about how what drove him in the beginning was helping other people. It wasn't necessarily like, I need to make this business a 6-figure business. I want to have, the biggest health and wellbeing brand in the UK or whatever. It was like, he just wanted to help other people, and he just got obsessed with wanting to help others and obsessed about the joy of him showing up like that. And I think that is so powerful. And it's really good to remember, if you are feeling under pressure for your business to look a certain way, or to have certain things, or to reach a certain milestone, to like go inward and really remind yourself, like, what is it that you want your coaching business to look like for you and not for anyone else? Because again, if we're worried about, well, so-and-so might think that my business isn't successful unless I hit this, or you're worried about that external validation, which a lot of what is what this comes down to. So if you're worried about the external validation from people, like, now's the time to let that go. You're allowed to have a cosy coaching business. It's allowed to be exactly what you need it to be. Small does not mean less good, less successful. We've got to reconnect with what that looks like. So if any of this has resonated for you and you are ready to get some one-to-one support around helping your business look the way that you want it to look. And again, if you do have any big income goals, like, I am 100% here for that. Like, I've got big income goals. It might not be necessarily reaching 6 figures, but I am 100% here for the big money goals that allow you to have the life that you want to have. That is fine. Equally, if your income goals are a little bit more modest, that's absolutely fine too. Whatever it is that you are going for, however many clients you want to have, whatever you want your coaching business to look like. And if you need that one-to-one support, please do check out my one-to-one mentoring and coaching programs. The link is in the description. I have got some slots open at the moment. So if you are interested in working with me one-to-one, and the way that I work, as I would say myself, I think is pretty amazing. And we work together really closely. We're kind of like partners in your business working together. I do include paid ads now. I know I was just saying, you don't need paid ads if you don't want them. You don't. But if you do want them, I do include working on paid ads together in that program at no extra cost. It's a bit of a bonus at the moment. So do check out those offerings. If you are kind of at an earlier stage of your coaching business, if you are really building out what I like to call kind of like your business engine or your business garden. I like the garden analogy a little bit more, I think. If you are at that point of like really wanting to strengthen the foundations of your coaching business, get some stuff in place so you can actually build like the repeatable, sustainable kind of income that you want, then Wholehearted Business is going to be the place for you as well. That is going to open in March. So do keep your eyes open for that, because it is an amazing program. So do check that out. Okay, guys, that is it from me today. I hope that you are so well, and I will catch you really soon. Take care. Bye.